This paper was presented at the JCT Traffic Signal Symposium 2024, thanks to our media partner Highways News, and sponsored by AGD Systems, Four-Way Consulting, Traffic Group Signals, Smart Micro UK, TRL Software, PTV Group, Census Networks, and Starling Technologies.
Good morning, everyone. Is it on? It's on. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's feeling good. This is going to be a mini presentation, and it's slightly different from the title that was given out. Just to say that in this industry, I've been involved for 5 years. So I am kind of very new, very green, and every time I stand up here, and I've done it for the last 2 years, it always terrifies me. So be nice. Simon, do you want to say a bit more about you?
I can.
It's up to you.
Bear with me. Can you hear me? Wow, yeah, that's loud. I'm not entirely sure I need this. I joined Starling 5 months ago as the sales lead. Please just groan now rather than do the presentation. It won't be a big pitch, but we're out there if you want to have a conversation with us later.
So Starling is a software company that has developed its own hardware, its own detection sensors to allow the software to work. And so subsequently what we do is we were one of a bunch of companies, as Martin has highlighted, that is using a new technology stack to be able to detect, analyze, and send messages to the controller to do something. So using what was originally talked about by Martin this morning, kind of using data. Starling is a software company, and I'm interested in the notion that actually within this new paradigm, detection is actually data and not detection anymore. So a typical setup, it looks like that. This is just a crossing. We have 2 sensors, and then we have both cloud software services as well as local software services running on our machines. And we have a bunch of installations in the UK and around the world. Please come and talk to us about that. All of that's not that important. So I want to touch on detection. I want to kind of touch on industry detection. And detectors, as Martin has talked about, and as you all know, because you deal with it on a daily basis, detectors currently have maybe 10 years, 15 years worth of things, lifespan, and they give a certain amount of modest data back from them. I'm going to touch on them in a second. And they also give certain amount of limited classifications. An example of kind of a detection would be the loops. It is an old problem. There's no real business case. It's expensive and disruptive to install. And when they die, they usually stay dead because they are disruptive. And so what we're looking at, and what Starling and what this industry is looking at, is how do we deal with things? How do we deal with this? So different types of detection. You've got the induction loops. I'm really telling you guys what you already know. Active infrared. One of the problems with active infrared, it needs a reflective surface of that object, and also has weather condition issues. Microwave, which has other types of issues, and optical, which is optical LiDAR, which is what Starling uses, have its own issues, including occlusion, and to a certain degree weather conditions. So I'm just going to flip on. So for the last couple of years, we've been talking at Starling about our work with pedestrians and cyclists, in particular reporting back on the work that we've been doing in Cambridge with Cambridgeshire County Council around pedestrian safety, and dealing with using our detector to be able to, one detector to be able to see, to replace 3 detectors on crossing, approaching vehicles and curbside, and then adding approaching pavements. And then being able to use our AI to predict what is about to happen, to predict who is going to be a crosser, who's going to be a passerby, and then optimize those signals to reflect actual demand. So this, for us, is what we have been doing over the last couple of years with a number of local authorities, and so. Part of that is that clearly that we then start talking about the kind of what Martin and others, I think later today and also yesterday, were talking about how the towpath specifications, and really kind of looking at how we convert this detection into data. And what you see there is a list of our out-of-the-box metrics that we get out, from our detectors. And so the detection turns immediately into this data, which we can then push to the controller, be it the existing controllers, so we can convert that into a kind of contact closure, or as Martin touched on earlier, which is the emerging specification, which is looking at the new towpath specification. If we can do that, and as we have been doing that with pedestrians, we're now turning our attention not away from pedestrians, but we're now adding a bit of detection around buses. So I'm going to hand over to Simon.
Hi. Andrew's very kindly given me an orange light, so I'll be quick. I recently wrote an article for LinkedIn, you may have seen it, which started, you wait ages for a bus, and then we turn up at once, and the people out there have a little chuckle at that, but for us it's a really serious problem. So we just thought we'd have a not exhaustive look at the influencing factors. So key one is, and thank you, Michael, that was a great intro. I haven't paid him, but that was a great intro to bus signal priority. So buses are absolutely at the mercy of traffic conditions. We know that. There are some bus lanes. I think in the rest of the world, potentially, other than TfL, the number of bus lanes are insignificant with regards to the challenges and the routes where buses have to face traffic. If traffic conditions are clear, the bus might be early. If traffic conditions are bad, then the bus might be late, and it feels like we can't win. Headway's disrupted, buses bunch up, and I proved my point about my LinkedIn article of you wait ages for a bus and then 3 turn up at once. Working on a project with the Northeast a couple of 3 years ago, we looked at GPS accuracy. I know this is going to be controversial. What I'm talking about is ticket machine GPS accuracy. And we demonstrated that it was up to 100 meters out, which is fantastic when you're traveling from Leeds to Devon for your holiday. But actually, when you're looking for some signal priority, that can be really problematic. And Michael explained getting in the red and green at the wrong time is actually really problematic. And what happens is that customer confidence decreases, operators get angry, and we all know the piece. So how does Starling look at this? Well, we prioritize the signals. Easy, right? Maybe not so. So you'll hear us say this a lot. So we use computer vision to classify, identify, and action stuff. And if we can see it, we can classify it. If we can classify it, we can action it. And I think it's worth pointing out that understanding what a bus is pretty easy for us humans. We can point to them. But actually, in computer vision terms, that can kind of get quite tricky and quite complex. We can identify a bus and create a bunch of metadata around that, including headway, general traffic conditions, heading, a bunch of other metrics, density of traffic that it's traveling in, and convey that data. We can understand buses in greater detail. Is it running early? Is it running late? Is it running on time? The Holy Grail. Again, heading, traffic conditions, weather conditions. There's a number of other metrics and metadata that we can pack in, as Andrew said, richer data to other sources. And using this info, we hope to give this industry software levers that you can pull. So we may want to prioritize buses at a given time, on a given day, during a given event, more aggressively, less aggressively, and that's not really our thing. Our thing is to push the data for you guys to pull those levers. And how do we do that? Very, very quickly, because I'm conscious I'm about to get a red. We work locally with the signals, as Andrew described, which I think is what Michael's describing at TfL, but also we work more strategically by sending out rich data into other cloud partners and platforms that can describe the bus in much more detail than a signal controller can necessarily take, and allow much more strategic and much more granular decisions to be taken. Bit cheesy, but it's all about getting more greens for more buses and getting more buses on time. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Another very interesting paper. Anyone interested in the science of bus bunching should look up the work of Peter White, Professor Emeritus of the University of Westminster. Some really interesting papers he's written on that topic. So, do we have some questions for the Starling 2?
Excellent.
I think everybody's hungry.
They're thinking about their coffee and biscuits, I think. So, thank you very much, gentlemen. That only leaves me to, well, first of all, a reminder of what you need to do. Martin Andrews and Topus and ARTSM want your input into Topus 2545. So please do your bit for the team or for the community and engage with that. So that's your bit of homework. I'd like to thank all our 5 speakers. I think you'll agree with me, really good papers, really interesting information. If there's something you think, oh, I wish I'd asked that, then they're all around, so you can get hold of them in the coffee break. And finally, I'd like to thank all of you. You turned up here at 9:15, the morning after the night before, and it was a jolly and long night, I'm sure, for many of us. But you were here to support us in our session, so I think we should all applaud each other.